Hi, this is Kevin again, coming to you, the youth mentor, coming to you to help you if you are a teacher, or parent, a youth worker, and you have these frustrations with dealing with youths, working with youths, teaching youths, especially young men. And last time I spoke about the deception that is coming and the fact that the deception is so subtle that our youths are not a lot of youths are not aware of what's happening. And I said, well, what I will do is also share some things that need to be considered when it comes to mentoring or working with youths. Now, I know there are a lot of different options. A lot of people have a lot of training programs and work that could be done. But I like to use what I've learned and through the Spirit of God teaching me and the results that youths have received through my work over the years, over the last 20 years working with youths. At different times, not consistently, of course. I have to admit that not consistent. I had some training programs at different times, and of course, to the place where I'm now training youth workers or teachers to do the same work that I did, to be able to get youth, to engage them, to be able to influence them, so they become responsible, royal youths. You know, really, youths who are responsible, youths who are respectful, youths who are righteous, youths who see, who understand their identity and their purpose in life, you know, to bring them to that level. I hear the pain and the frustration, with a lot of school violence happening now. Youths are shooting up the place around the world, and of course, social media being like the fuel, you know, in their minds, directing them to these things, and the adults as teachers and parents and so forth feeling as if there's nothing we can do about this because we don't know this world. This world is just foreign to us. There is this thing that is happening and we don't know how to get them off the screen, and how do I get them to stop playing all these games and focus on their books, and how do I get them to stop being so hyperactive, which they have now coined ADHD, and that sort of thing, instead of getting them to sit down and focus on. And a lot of complaints that are happening with our parents and especially teachers and the government. I mean, it's just crazy, right? It makes some people want to pull their hair out, want to just run away and hide, right? Well, I want to share some things with you, and these things are called principles, which I've taught, I've learned, and I've used over the years. And principles are things that are built into nature. Like, for example, if you go to plant a tree, there are certain things that you will do to make sure the tree grows, right? It's built into nature. Now, you could choose to do opposite to those things, and then you will realize what happens, right? Your plant dies, right? So the challenge is we're trying to do certain things that are not that are opposite to what the child needs or the children need, and then expecting the results. And we have to say, but it can't work, right? I remember sharing, and I think I mentioned that, where the village used to, or the community used to bring up a youth, and we saw it work, and we find that it was very beneficial. And why didn't we continue it? What happened? Somebody told us those people or neighbors are abusing our children or will abuse our children, so don't allow that. Somebody told us that, and we believed it. So, so would we just leave it? We didn't understand that there was a way around it. So when you learn principles that work, the principles don't change. The principles are there in life. Methods, how you apply the principles, could change, right? And that could be the same example as the plant. Okay, normally you will go and you will get manure to put in your plant. You dig a hole and so forth, and you manure it, and that sort of thing. And then there is a change where you have to go and get a bag of fertilizer, and you have to put out a little, spoons and so forth. But then the method could change, where instead of you going and getting manure separately, you could actually start with soil that have manure mix in it already, or buy a bag of premix that's already have the nutrients, and you can have nutrients that are liquid, right? There's so many different ways of applying the same principle to grow the plant. Okay, but the plant needs the nutrients. That's the principle. Nutrients you need for the plant. So the same thing to understand youths are a different time in their life. When we were a teenager, there are things that we did, but we didn't do the same things they did, but the principle was the same. We wanted to have fun when we were young, right? They want to have fun, but their form of fun is different. Okay. The other thing about it is that we were taught it's okay to have rivalry, right? Sibling rivalry, right? Going against each other and have battling and quarreling. But next thing we make up, and we didn't kill each other, but we make up and we had challenge. We come together and we buddies again. So what has happened is but that was influenced by what we saw with the adults. It wouldn't last long. We saw that, so we just copied it. They're seeing something else on social media, so they're just copying it, right? So basically, the principle is the same. They're copying what they're seeing. What we have to do is try to create the culture around us of people being, yes, disagree, have disagreement, but making back up. Okay? Most of this whole, as I always tell people, most of your disagreements and your challenges with staying or remaining apart when you disagree comes from parents. Divorce rate just increases. In other words, we disagree, so we can't live together. We just need to go apart. Okay. So the same thing happens. The children say, we disagree, you can't be in the same school with me or the same class with me or drive in the same taxi with me. You need to be in a different place with me. Basically, they're learning from the parents. So because the child have to come to the same school, be in the same class, they can't separate. So it just increases, just gets them more angry because they was hurt, right? Whereas when you're divorced, you don't want to see the person, you want to be away from the person. So that whole mashing up and that whole disconnection increased. No, it doesn't mean that wasn't there. It was there, but it wasn't as devastating. It wasn't as numerous as it is now, right? Where the anger was so much, where there was so much bitterness and unforgiveness. It wasn't so blatant. Now it's just in your face, where parents are at each other's throat, right? Where they even when parents disagree, it end up in somebody killing the whole parent, the whole family, right? So that came from the parents and came down to the children. That way in which we disagree has changed. What happens when we disagree has changed, but disagreements has always been there, right? It's just the principle is still there, but the way it's applied is the problem. The application of it, the methods at which how we handle it has changed, has increased, has escalated, and blown out of proportion. All right. Now, what we have to do is get to the bottom as to how can we fix that? How can we fix what we have allowed to get out the barn? How can we get the horse back in to the barn, so to speak? Okay. So there's some fundamental principles that work that help youths to become the best they were created to be, to discover themselves, to not allow peer pressure to influence them or culture around them to influence them, right? And and those foundational principles can be applied in any forum. They're not something you apply just only in youths. Parents can apply that in their own lives, all right? These principles. But what we're going to do as I go through the principles, I'm going to try to express it in the way of how to deal with youths, right? As you as an adult, as you as a teacher or a youth worker or a parent want to deal with a child, one of the big foundational principles is and I'll do it what we call opposites, right? And I'll do it opposite in terms of one against the other, right? Or for and against. But I'll use what you call these learning hierarchies called information, understanding, or knowledge, understanding, or information, right? And analysis, which is understanding, and then wisdom or application. So there's information, then there's understanding, and then there's application. I'll use those methods to explain how it's supposed to be done, right? The first one I'll talk about today is really the spiritual versus physical. That's a foundational principle. There's a challenge between physical and spiritual that's taking place as a foundational cause of what we are experiencing in the real life, right? So what we are experiencing in real life is the effect. But if you don't deal with the cause, the effect will still be there. We'll be trying to solve this problem and it just won't go away. You're seeing happening, right? You're accustomed to see it happen, right? Same thing as if you go and you fix a crack in the wall and you say, well, this wall cracking, and you mix some cement and you fix it, right? And then next 2 years, the crack come back again, and so, or a crack come back in another place. What's happening with this wall? And you put another cement, mix and put cement again. You're dealing with the effect, not the cause. To get the cause, you have to go to the foundation. What is causing this? So, so there's this battle we are having between physical and spiritual as one of the foundational causes of youth violence, youth following the wrong company instead of the right company, all that sort of thing. They're like, no, we can't blame the internet. We can't blame social media. There are many things on social media and on the internet that you can learn from, good, bad, and indifferent. We have a choice. Everybody have a choice. But what makes the bad more prevalent or more effective? What's causing it? So that's one. There is also another foundational principle, which is language versus ideas. Language in terms of English or Spanish or French, that's language. We speak language. But the idea behind the language could be the challenge. Because somebody could try to express themselves in a language, but you don't get the idea, and they have to go over it. You ask somebody, what do you mean by that? What are you saying? You want them to express it again and explain it further. So sometimes ideas are confusing, and the language doesn't help to explain it properly. So language versus idea is a foundational challenge that causes a lot of these things that we are seeing happening. Instead of them going one direction, they're going the wrong direction. Another one is sonship versus slaves. People feel more like slaves in life instead of feeling as sons, like I belong, right? I belong here. This is home. So there is this conflict that's happening. That's three. There's another one, right, which is religion versus dominion, right? Which is versus rulership. People feel as if they're controlled by religious affiliations and religious dogmas and creeds and all this other thing, and they're fighting it because they're not built for it, right? Not realizing they're built for rulership, right? A relationship of rulership, a rulership relationship with each other, not a religious relationship. So that's a big challenge that's happening with a lot of people. And then there's another one, which is time versus eternity, right? And time versus eternity is where people celebrate anniversaries and birthdays and time things, days, weeks, months, years, instead of celebrating life, right? Life, the fact that you are alive, right? And that's a big conflict, a big challenge. So I'm going to deal with each one of these at different days, right? Today I've just work on the spiritual versus physical, all right? Which has to do with the youths are seeing things, hearing things, experiencing things in their physical life, but not able to identify where it's coming from. Why is this important to me? They're not able to identify why. The why, asking questions helps us to discover the root cause of something. Right? That's how investigators work. That's how inventors work. That's how innovators work. They discover things by asking why. Right? And in their minds, they're confused because they're seeing one thing happening, but they're hearing something else. It's like saying, go to school, get good grades so you could get a good job and take care of your life. And they're seeing people studying hard, got good jobs, got good grades, got good, and then company closed down, or they got fired, or recession hit and they lose the work and the house. They're seeing what's happening in reality and they're hearing you saying one thing. So it's confusing. It's what's happening here? I'm experiencing something in the physical, but you are telling me something that is like strange. It's confusing. That also lines up with people saying, do what I say, right? But they're doing something else. Don't do what I do. So there was this challenge. You know, Romans 8 talks about this whole mind of the carnal mind versus the spiritual mind. And I like Romans 8 because it brings a principle I used to use with the young men in relation to temptation. And I used to say what makes a plane fly? Why? How come this big, heavy thing can defy the clouds and the air and go to places? How can that happen? And you try to throw a stone to fly and it only go a certain distance and drop. What happens? Right? How could this big thing fly? Right? That principle that the plane is using, we are able to use it to defy one law over the other. Right? It's like a law. So principles are like laws built into nature, right? Things built into nature that works, that's there. Now, the law that the plane has to battle with is the law of gravity, which everybody knows. But what everybody's not aware of, and most people have to go to school to learn that, is how the opposite law works, which is the law of thermodynamics or the law of flight. So it uses one law to overcome another law, right? And the two laws actually work together, right? The Romans 8 chapter 2 says the law of the spirit of life sets us free from the law of sin and death. It expresses this way: one law is causing us to overcome another law. So the things that are causing the chaos that leading to death and destruction and problems in our school, there is working through a law, and we have to use a law that can override it. What a lot of counselors and psychologists, and yes, there are those who are really good at their work, but one of the things, the challenge they have is that they try to use the same ruler for everyone, and a lot of times it doesn't work. Not everybody can get help or can be helped by sitting down in a room and listening to having somebody talking to them. Sometimes some people just, their way is going and do some work together. Let's go and cook together. Let's go and move some bricks together. Let's go and clean the yard together. Their thing might be, let's go and take a walk. Their way might be different. The application of the law could be different. So what we want to do is to find out what law, what principle in spirit need to deal with this principle that leads to death. The law of the spirit of life. So the spirit of life, which is the spirit of God, overrides this thing that leads to death. The law of sin and death, because sin brings death, right? Sin, which is rebellion, leads to death. In other words, rebelling against how things are supposed to operate. So if the car is built to drive on the road and drive a certain way, instead the normal person would realize, okay, if the car is not functioning the way it's supposed to, you can have the best car, nice looking, all the things running, and you turn the key and it doesn't work. Hey, something had to be wrong here. No lights coming on the dashboard saying something is wrong, but it's not coming on. Something had to be missing. You have to find out what is missing, right? Of course, something's supposed to come on the dashboard when it's not working, but if it's not coming on, you have to find out what is going on here. So you need to take an instrument, sometimes plug it into the car, check it, or you need to get somebody to experience fixing cars to check it, all right? So a lot of times that is not happening. People are not checking. They're not finding out first. What law or how is this person applying the law of sin and death? So that I could take the law of spirit of life and override and show them how to overcome what they're going through. All right? Some people might be going through a traumatic situation, a loss of something. They might feel as if they're a mistake, they don't belong, all sort of things. If we don't find that out properly and ask the right questions to get to the root of it, we wouldn't know what law, what principle they're operating with, so we can apply the right principle in the right way, right? And so it takes time to find out that physical thing that is affecting them, but it's that, sorry, that spiritual thing that is affecting him, that's causing him to operate in this physical manner, we need to find that out so we can now apply this spiritual law to deal with that cause and then get them to respond differently physically. So the spiritual controls the physical. No, they're not aware of this. They're not aware that this hurt is causing them to feel this way and do these things. They're not aware of that. We as adults need to know that, need to be learn. But in order for us to know that, we have to ask the questions. We have to get the time to ask the questions. That is why it's supposed to have youth workers to do that. The challenge sometimes the youth worker is not aware of how to do it. Which principle or which method works with this youth, with this person, with this group. And that's why it's so important to have the Spirit of God guiding us. Okay, what's the method to use? I know all the information and I have all the training, whatever, but when I reach this group or this person, I need to know which one, how to apply it with this person, what angle to use, what method to use. And a lot of the methods learned by youth workers are scientifically proven. But even in doing that, the Spirit of God knows beyond that. It's still limited to what the Spirit of God knows, which sometimes you might just need to sit down and just listen and just ask questions or just sit down and say nothing. But the Spirit of God knows that. He knows everything. So that method of the spiritual versus the physical can resolve a lot of issues, even from the beginning. All right. That is why I was able to have youths who were limey with gangs, going towards gangs. You're going to say addicted to their cell phones. Eventually realize, wait a minute, I overs this. They come to that conclusion. I didn't tell them to over that, What I did is I showed them principles and let them decide. When they decided, game over. You could bring whatever you want to them. They already decided, I don't want this. I don't want that life. I don't want to be addicted to this. I don't want to go down that road. Right? So the principles, applying the principles, listening, working with the Spirit of God, allows us to get to the root cause of the problem for the specific group or person, and then apply to the physical, is to the spiritual cause, apply that thing to the spiritual cause to affect them in the spirit, in the physical behavior eventually, right? Because one of the things that a lot of them do, a lot of the youth workers do, a lot of teachers do, they try to work on the behavior. They work on the behavior. Don't tell them, behave yourself. That doesn't work. It doesn't help. And we've seen it. We need to find out what is causing it. All right? Spiritual given to override the physical. And that it works wonders. Yes, there's a time frame, but the most important thing is you have to know that this works. You have to know this works. Even though it might not work today, you work it until it works. And it doesn't take long once you apply it properly. And yes, there are times when you mightn't hear the Spirit of God properly. You have to go back to find out what is happening here. What is happening with this person? Why is this person happening? What is happening with them? The Spirit of God can give us information. He can reveal things to us. Directly and indirectly reveal things. He wants to help. He's the great comforter. He's the great teacher. He's the great mentor. He's the great coach, right? He's the great consultant. He's the great counselor, right? And he's willing to help. So listening to the Spirit of God, understanding those challenges, spiritual versus physical that the child is having, and then working with the spiritual to override the physical, right? Next time, we're going to deal with the next one of the challenges, and every time we're going to deal with one of the next challenge until you learn all the 5 major challenges, the 5 major root causes or major root challenges that most people have. It blocks us from developing our own potentials, from understanding people. But the real thing is that most of these challenges help us from becoming who we were created to be. That's a big deal. They limit us, they restrict us, they stifle us from becoming the sons of God that we are supposed to be. The creation that God created, right? The creators, I should say, that God created. It limits us. Once you learn these challenges and you learn how to override them with the Spirit of God, by the Spirit of God, hey, you gradually start expanding what you're doing. You're able to now influence and transform youths without you doing all this work. The Spirit of God doing the work through you. You're just a vessel getting the work done. It becomes like resting, right? While you're working, right? Kind of challenging in the logical mind to understand it, but let me tell you something, it's true, right? And most of it you can't really understand as Second Corinthians says. The as Romans 8 also said, the physical and the carnal mind, the mind the, that depends on intellectual logic, can't really understand spiritual things. You can't. You have to get the Spirit of God to reveal it to you. All right. As that one of the scriptures that said, I have not seen, meaning eyes, physical eyes have not seen, physical ears have not heard, and it has not been revealed into the heart, the mind, the thinking, the logical processes of man. They can't decipher, they can't understand the principles, the systems, the whole kingdom system, all of these blessings, all this stuff, all this power, this authority. They don't understand, they can't comprehend the things that God has prepared for those who love Him. I comprehend it. It's just awesome. But when you get into the Spirit, because the other part says, but it has been revealed to us by His Spirit. By the Spirit, yeah. The Spirit of God reveals it to you when you get into the Spirit of God. All right? That's how we solve it. Not just temporarily. And that's what a lot of people, I think, are trying to use as a trump card. The fact that they get some results temporarily. They use it as, I'm good at this, or I can do this. That's temporary results, man. To permanently get that change, the Spirit of God have to do it. Permanently transform lives. The Spirit of God have to do that. All right? Okay. So that can be done, and I see you next time. I will talk about the next challenge, right? Second challenge. All right. Have fun and be at peace. The Spirit of God is also the Spirit of peace. Okay? Be at peace. Bless you.